Hello, I want to welcome everybody at the National Mobilization Meeting to this special report where Rosa Franklin, who is a groundbreaking African-American nurse and politician, will be talking to us about the bad old days and why we cannot return. Gina Petrie, who's the coordinator of the Puget Sound Mobilization and Seattle Radical Women, and I have come up with some questions and to ask. And I'm, for people who may not know me from other meetings, I'm the coordinator of the National Mobilization for Reproductive Justice. We're just very honored to have Rosa Franklin as a guest here. For people who aren't from Washington State, Rosa is a legendary, groundbreaking politician, 20-year member of the Washington State Legislature in Tacoma. But also, people may not know she was also a barrier breaker as an African-American nurse starting right after World War II and in the midst of segregation and blatant exclusionary practices. And of course, when abortion was very much illegal and criminalized. So Rosa Franklin was going to talk to us about what it was like then from the perspective of someone in the medical field and why we cannot go back. So thank you so much, Rosa Franklin, for being here. The first question I had was, as a groundbreaker, including as a nurse and fighting segregation in the medical field, what barriers did you have to overcome in order to practice as a nurse?
Actually, it was the day of segregation and everything was segregated. It's schools. And so the barriers, I had not really planned to even practice in South Carolina after I graduated from nursing school. But so then the barrier, because of segregation, in all the hospitals were again, and it was really based on, at the time, on race being the major issue. And so my barriers was, I got in, I took the exam, and I was the last graduating class for the cadet nurses corps. I was a cadet nurse. And then upon graduation, then I had my first job, which my first job for after graduating from nursing was at New Jersey Hospital, New Jersey State Hospital. So I never really practiced in the South at all, in South Carolina. So my goal was to head north.
We're glad you did, so that you could actually become a nurse. I know even there it must have been very hard and took a lot of courage and determination, I'm sure. I think Gina has another question now.
Yes. So what experiences led you, that you can share with us, led you to be such a strong advocate for reproductive rights?
Because it's a health issue. And my primary concern was the segregation of health and what I saw that happened in the health field. The other was when I learned, when I first came into and learned about abortion, was when a young woman at a hospital in which I was affiliated as a student came in and they asked, was she pregnant? And she said no, and she was seriously ill. And then as I learned more later on about the back alleys, as we called at that time, the back alley as abortion. And being a strong health advocate, I saw this as discrimination. It was discriminating against those who really wanted to, and then it led them to illegal. And then there were a few doctors, and then there were hospitals that didn't take them. So it was, and all of my learning about that was after that incident with the young woman. And then Planned Parenthood, when Planned Parenthood came on board, I learned what their mission was and became very much involved.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I can imagine meeting that young woman and probably many others like her, that it really made quite an impact.
Yes, yes, it did. And being a very young myself, and knowing, and it was a college town.
Right, right, absolutely. Thank you. And then Helen, you had another question.
Yeah, I was wondering if in the patients you saw or people you knew in the community, if you heard that there was a big difference on basis of race and income for women seeking abortion, how they were treated, whether they were able to find safe abortions or not. How did that play out?
Well, based on income, I went back and became a women's health care specialist back in the early 70s, because women had just hearing from them that in a male-dominated society, they were not really listened to. And then women at that time didn't really know much about their bodies. So then we went back to the University of Washington, which was the gynecological training program, and working with that to teach women about their bodies, what to expect. And then, of course, from there on, continue to work with them.
So you're on the forefront of women's health as all the
Yes.
way. That's great.
Absolutely. Did you see a difference in how women were treated based on race as well?
Did I see, well, because of this whole issue of inequality, a lot of things I might not have seen, because I was also a military wife. So being in the military, things were different than being out in civilian life. But from what I've heard, that they really a lot of times did not believe them. They didn't think that they knew what they were talking about. And of course, women's health was not a primary issue at all. They were still classified as looking at male. And so a lot of what I experienced was being involved with the communities, being involved with the groups, being involved with women. And women made a lot of progress during the time that I was involved.
Absolutely. I can believe that you were part of that progress. You and other women like you were definitely part of making that progress happen. So after this wonderful, your career as a nurse for, I think it was 42 years. And then, as Helen mentioned at the beginning, you went on to serve in the Washington State Legislature until 2010. And we know that there, some of the issues you worked on were pushing for state income tax and fighting racial discrimination, and fighting for housing and healthcare, and continuing to fight for healthcare. So what guidance could you give us activists now in our continued fight for those issues as well as reproductive justice?
Progress has been made, and of course, if you must stay involved and you must learn about your community. From a very early age, that was taught to me, that you become involved with your community and let you know what's going on, and then expand your knowledge. You cannot be in a glass house. You have to be able to associate with others. And you may be the only one. I have been like the only one at meetings that looked like me, and to be there and to gain more knowledge. And we were definitely against segregation, against inequality, it didn't matter what your race, well, the color of your skin, what religion you belong to, or whatever. I was taught that everyone is treated equal. And therefore, starting from a very early age, you community and involvement within your community. And I used to tell my nursing colleagues that you cannot just work and go to work and come back to practice your profession. You have to know what's going on in your community, and within, because the community is where it really starts. And then with becoming involved, you cannot stop. I have a friend who's now deceased, was very much afraid that we would lose Roe versus Wade, and we did, because she said they were no longer involved. Organizations that came into play during the women's rights movement were not being supported the way that should have been supported. So my goal, my answer to that question is stay involved. You have to, there are sacrifices that we make to be able to continue to see changes. What we have struggled so hard to gain, we are now losing. And that is because not becoming not involved. And women must learn to support other women, and not only other women, those who, male also, I don't leave them out, because without them, and those who really believed in that women should be treated as equal partners, would not be here. So mine is stay involved within your community, and do not try to remake what has been made, built on what has been successful. And I have seen success in things over the past year that were torn away, and we can't have that. If it's been a success, we should build on those success and then review them and see what is happening, and then continue. And then lift as you climb. Mine was always bringing somebody else along with you, not just yourself. So mine to the generations to follow is to build on what we have done, do away with what's not working, but don't try to rebuild.
Those are great words of advice. Thank you. And that is such an important thing for people today who I think have been told they can just sit back and not worry about anything. Someone else will take care of it. But yeah, to be in touch with the community and then just keep on going. That's really, really urgent for today. So thank you. And thank you for zooming in from Sacramento to be part of this interview. And also thank you to your family members who you obviously taught well how to be fighting for what's important and for equality and women's rights and human rights. We really appreciate their participation and the leadership that you have shown and that they show also.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.